English, but he is much more comfortable to contribute in French. But don't worry, don't worry. In English what he's saying, and that way we can all enjoy and talk to each other properly. Going forward, I also have representing or in place of Abdullahi Dembo's Acting Director General, Nigerian Television Authority, I have the Executive Director Engineering, Chief Dr. Professor Moses Okwanachi. Can you please give him a round of applause, please? Mayoga, you're welcome, sir. Last but not least, it's not a prof, I was just kidding. Last but not least, I have in place of this Director General for Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Mr. Samuel Maina. I think he sent a representative in his stead, isn't he? All right. Please, can you give the gentleman a round of applause, please? This is a very interesting panel, very powerful one. Without much ado, I'll call my big boss, DG Rwanda Broadcasting Agency, who's going to facilitate and run the panel. Author, ball is in your court, sir.
Thank you very much, my brother Benjamin. I think much has been spoken this morning. This panel is just going to sugarcoat what was discussed in the morning. We shouldn't take much time on this session, given the fact that we have two more sessions. So I'll try and make it quick and then open it up to the audience for you to ask questions. But like I said, much has been said in the morning. So it's going to be interactive. We just have a conversation. We don't need to have PhD presentations. Let's just have an open conversation on the future of public service broadcasting and whether it's still relevant or irrelevant, and what lies ahead for us. And I'll start it off with my brother, Dr. Min from Ghana. There was an interesting comment that was made this morning, that what are the boundaries of public service mandate? Can't even the commercial players be able to play a public service mandate? Should these so-called public service broadcasters owned by governments be preserved, protected, funded by the taxpayer, yet also the commercial players can still serve the same role? So, in this day and age, my brother, is public service broadcasting still relevant? And how does it become even relevant in the digital era that we're talking about? Over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Otta. And the conversation about public service broadcasting exclusivity of its mandate. I'm coming from the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and so much of my thinking is informed by our experience in Ghana. We run 7 TV channels and 18 FM stations, all within the country. And so I can imagine the response of the private sector that they also do public service broadcasting like us. But so any conversation about the mandate of public service broadcasting, for me, at least should start from the defining features of what constitutes public service broadcasting. There are at least two principles that we can't negotiate. One, diversity of content and reach. And two, universality of access. So in the Ghanaian terrain, we have over 50 Ghanaian languages of various groups spread across the country. For me, if you want to say you are also doing public service broadcasting, I will challenge you to do at least a certain number of local language broadcasts. The GBC, we do 25 Ghanaian languages today. So every day we broadcast in 25 Ghanaian languages. We are doing this because the English language that we so adopted is not universal within the country. So if you can do that, at least a certain number, I wouldn't even go to say 20. Even if you can do 5 language groups, count yourself as doing public service broadcasting. Number 2, universality of access. If GBC has the responsibility of getting content to every nook and cranny of the country at a cost to the public service broadcaster, a private broadcaster who wants to claim the mandate should also demonstrate capacity to do so. Then aside of this, we mentioned COVID. Yes, COVID example was, we all went through that, and we saw what the public service broadcaster did. But beyond that, there are certain events that when they occur, public service broadcasters are uniquely positioned to deliver. Let's take, for sports, it's so lucrative that all the private media organizations want to say they can also do it. But let's take the Olympic Games. When your country even sends one rep to the Olympic Games, you expect that your countries should see how that person is performing. We go out to buy it, the content. We don't even get any revenue to match the cost of acquisition, yet we do it. Our constitution in Ghana puts an obligation on us that in an election year, we give equal airtime to all registered political parties. So for me, with all these responsibilities on the public service broadcaster, there is no doubt about defining to say that the private sector is also doing public service broadcasting. No, they are not. But their primary function is to make business, is to do business and generate profit.
But Doctor, would you be kind enough to say probably that they play a complementary role?
To the extent that they view the audience as numbers to sell and raise revenue, to the extent that they see the audience as a market, while the public service broadcaster sees the audience as citizens to be informed. I am not saying they don't play a complementary role, but they don't perform the type of public service mandate that is imposed on the public service broadcaster.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you so much, Doctor. You raised very important issues around diversity and universal accessibility, which are key for the public service broadcasters. I'll come back to you on those issues. Let me cross over. I'll come to my brother from Mali shortly. To my neighbor here from Kenya. For me, it boils down to things around audience. If a public service broadcaster is number 2, number 3, number 4 on the market, and you're not number 1, and the commercial player is number 1 on the market, don't you think that, in a way, contradicts the role of a public service broadcaster? If you're saying we have this huge mandate of, serving the audiences, being mindful of diversity, being neutral, making sure that accessibility is everywhere. But again, you find the commercial players are the ones leading on the market. So isn't that some sort of crisis for we in the public service broadcasting?
Okay, let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Jared Ombui. I'm the Digital Manager, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. I'm representing my CEO, who happens to be Samuel Maina, who is engaged on other official duties. Just a brief of what KBC is about. KBC runs 3 television stations. It runs 21 radio stations. It also runs a signal distribution service that is called Signet. Currently, Signet has about 100 clients, TV stations that it carries across the country. And it's among the leading signal distributor in the country. We have the Chinese, that is Pang. We also have ADN, which is African Digital Network, that is owned by at least 4 to 5 media houses from the private sector. Now, you're talking about market ratings and where the public broadcaster is. If the public broadcaster is not number 1, why should they exist? I'll say this from the word go. First of all, history has shown me, and data tells me today, that public broadcasters across Africa are doing a commendable job. However, the guys who do polls, we call them pollsters, don't recognize the public mandate. What they actually into is purely they pick which station is popular in terms of entertainment and rank it as number 1. How I wish the pollsters who exist in our markets would actually analyze public broadcasters versus another public broadcaster, not a commercial entity. Okay, that would make a lot of sense. Secondly, there are questions about how do they collect their samples. Okay, there are questions about these samples. How come it's a specific media house that leads throughout in a market? Then I also really want to understand how come that national broadcasters have wide coverage in a country, but still they're not ranked number 1. That's also another challenge in itself. So it takes us to basics. Why does a public broadcaster exist? Does it exist to compete with the private sector? Not at all. The public broadcaster actually exists to serve a function that the private sector will never serve, to serve the unserved, okay? And if these pollsters are really genuine, because we're talking about ranking here, let them tell us when was the last time they went, for example, to the top part of the country, the marginalized communities. When was the last time they were there? What were they exactly? What is this sample population? So for me, the performance of a national broadcaster will not be judged by a pollster. We should judge the public broadcaster's performance based on the existing mandate. Are you reaching 100% of the country? Are you providing educational content that is required? Are you entertaining the public enough? Are you able to interpret enough? Are you enhancing public participation? That's how we should judge national broadcasters, not by polls.
Very good, very good. Fair enough, fair enough. I'll try and take off the heart of being a public service broadcaster, because we need to generate this conversation. And my brother from Nigeria, you're with NTA.
Yeah.
Do you at times become so frustrated that the policymakers, especially our leaders, they tend not to understand and appreciate the value of public service broadcasting? Did you at times get frustrated and say, you know what, look at the challenges of financing, look at the challenges of producing content? Do you think you get the right attention from the policymakers?
Thank you.
And what should be addressed?
Thank you so very much. Let me correct one impression. I am not a professor, but I hope to be one tomorrow, or do I hold a PhD degree? Yes, the question. I want to, before I answer your question, I want to completely agree with the professor. He talked about diversity and then being universal. In addition to that, I also want to add 2 other things. Being independent and as well being distinct. Public broadcasting.
Being independent, you're sure about this?
Sorry?
Being independent? In what ways?
That is, as a broadcaster, your content, your editorial judgment should be independent. You should be autonomous as a public broadcaster. But where the government influence what you are doing, then you lose your relevance, you lose your importance. The major mandate of the public broadcaster is in 3 folds: to educate, inform, and entertain. And when you are doing it, you are looking at, you need to be universal. You take, for instance, like Nigeria, a country with a larger population, with over about 920,000 land square meters. You need to cover the entire place. Maybe perhaps that explains why NTA is said is the largest television network in Africa, having over 118 NTA television stations. Then you now compare it with a commercial television station that have only one station in one location. There are no basis of comparison. And then, when you look at the content of what you are transmitting, the commercial operators or commercial television operators want to transmit what people want to watch, what is nice. But the public broadcaster, you will transmit the culture that is relevant to the people of the environment.
So even if they're not watching?
Sorry?
Even if they're not watching, you just have to transmit.
I didn't get you right.
No, you're saying, the commercial broadcasters,
Yes.
the content, entertainment, people are watching. But for you as a public service broadcaster, you're supposed to go for, diversity, for different interests. But are you being mindful of the people? Are they watching you, or do you understand what I mean?
Yes. You see, the essence of public broadcasting is for the people, meeting their needs and their desires, and working in line with the culture and the beliefs of the environment where they come from. That is of paramount importance. But the commercial man is, which program do I put on air that I will make more people to pay more money? For instance, in Nigeria today, in the northeast part of the country, where we have insurgents and some challenges, you won't see a private television operator there. They are all gone to other areas where they will be able to generate a lot of money. But as a public broadcaster, you are very much interested, what can I do to promote my culture? What can I do to influence my people so that they will be able to work with what is our mission and our vision statement? So, yes, it is true, the policymakers, at times, many of them tend to get confused between the difference between a public broadcaster and a commercial or a private television. For instance, like in NTA or Nigeria today, many people will compare NTA with Channels Television. But there are no basis for comparison, because NTA is a public broadcaster. You are to transmit to entire Nigerians. You are to look at the needs of the people. And when you look at that critically, you now tend to look at the commercial people. They are just only interested in, what can I get? What will I say that people will be happy? What will I say that some people who are opposing the government will be clapping and they will be excited? But you see, in any broadcasting, you must unite the people. Even though there are certain things that are irregular, you must find a better way of making a better presentation so that there will be cohesion and that people will be able to stay and live peacefully.
Thank you very much. My brother, my friend, Marie. I'm sorry, my French is very bad, but I'm certain that you hear what I'm trying to say. And we have a colleague that was going to help us translate. But speak to us about public service mandate in Mali, and how you trying to fulfill your mandate, kind of challenges you go through, and how the audience is picking you.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais répondre à cette question. En fait, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec les approches déjà mentionnées par le professeur. En ce qui concerne le cas du Mali, il y a une particularité. Donc, les services publics en question sont gérés par l'État. Donc, diffusent les informations que l'État veut. Donc, ça devient purement politique. Donc, que ce soit la télévision nationale ou que ce soit la radio nationale, il y a une emprise du gouvernement sur le contenu, sur les informations qui sont diffusées à travers ces télés publiques et autres. Mais par contre, Au Mali, il y a une prolifération des télés et des radios privées et des télés et des radios confessionnelles, c'est-à-dire à caractère religieux. Et bizarrement, le public a tendance à écouter beaucoup plus ces télés et radios privées et non la télévision publique. Parce que la télévision publique est purement politisée. Donc tout ce que le gouvernement veut, c'est ce qui est diffusé. Donc il n'y a pas d'accès universel ou il n'y a pas une certaine liberté par rapport au contenu de l'information qui circule. Donc c'est vraiment, il y a une emprise du gouvernement. C'est devenu purement politique. Oui.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. I also share the opinion of my colleagues. In Mali, it's the same case. According to the content we don't have like independency. We are not independent. The public service has like the content and transmit everything they want, but on the other side there is like religious people and private broadcasters. They are the ones who have many followers, because in Mali it's purely the government, like the public service, like the broadcasting services, public ones, is really like under the government. It's only the government who just give the roles of like how everything is going to be.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
I'm going to open up to the audience for questions, but before I open up, Prof, I mean again, really, is it an issue of transmission? Is it an issue that there must be universal accessibility as opposed to fighting for the numbers, audience? In other words, what should public broadcasters do to remain relevant before the eyes of the audiences?
Yeah, thank you. I think there was this point about another factor which has to do with independence of the media, public service media, broadcasting from government influence. And I think I want to add up to that. It's a very key point about defining public service. And with our Ghanaian experience here again, what we have is that the CEO and his deputy of the National Public Service Broadcaster, which is GBC, they are not appointed by government. They are appointed by the National Media Commission. The National Media Commission is the constitutional body whose representation is defined in the Constitution and has elements from opposition, various religious bodies, civil society organizations, journalists associations, the Ghana Bar Association, which constitute, and when they meet, they elect their chairman. So the commission then appoints the CEO of the, that helps to insulate it. And I think that's a very important point. Now, the point about, is it about numbers or is it about universality? Let me start by saying this. The post-colonial nation state is only possible through the medium of radio. And there's a thesis that says that without the invention of the radio, it would have been difficult constituting the nation state. And let us not define the nation state by the map. It was imagined before it had a geographic expression on the map. And it was imagined through the media. Now, for public service broadcaster, your job is always to use the medium to remind the national community that we are a one group called Ghana, called Rwanda. You might live close to the border of another country and that your compatriots are at the center. The purpose of the broadcaster is to ensure that you have a daily common menu of information which keeps on reminding you of your common identity. And this responsibility is the basis of universality of access, so that at every time, you might live 5 kilometers away from the border of another country, and your compatriots are about 300 kilometers away, 400 kilometers away. You must see your identity as inherently common to those of your compatriots, not those you can walk 5 kilometers across the border. And that is the issue of universality. Now, let us come back to the point. Those who are talking about numbers are treating the media space as a market. And I think we talked about earlier today, I think today Arthur made a point that how do we leave the market for the private media to operate so that we continue doing our business with a sustainable system of funding. And I think that should be the conversation, so that we don't begin to see ourselves as competitors in the market, because our primary function is not to operate in the market. Our primary function is to operate in the community called the nation state. It's an imagined community, but it is real. And it was, like I said earlier, imagined before it had the geographic expression on the map. And if we lose this focus, we will soon discover how fragile the national community is. And that is why issues of universality cannot be negotiated for the public service broadcasters' mandate, but for the private sector, it's about markets. The polls in Ghana are done with data from what we call the Golden Triangle, predominantly southern Ghana. Data from northern Ghana doesn't add up to the polls that they use to generate eyeballs and determine. So it is not about human beings. It's about purchasing power. Thank you.
Great, thank you. You want to say something? Yeah, quickly.
Yes, I just wanted to say something about the relevance of public broadcaster in the current times. You know, I would like us to look at public broadcasters as cultural institutions and also as institutions that are not based looking at time. I know the challenge most public broadcasters have in Africa, they are heavily dependent on who is the president and heavily dependent on who is the minister for, let's say, information and broadcasting. So I think as nations, we must look at public broadcasters as cultural institutions, as an instrument that reminds us of who we are, as an institution that reminds us of where we should be going, not only just based on a regime, but looking at posterity. What do I mean by this? When you look at the BBC survives, or maybe the RFI, they survive not, they don't look at short-term goals, they look at long-term goals that actually favor a country, not really a long-term goal that favors actually an individual or a particular political class. So Africa, ourselves, we must rise up and realize that the national broadcasters are purely our cultural institutions. They actually embody our imagination from our forefathers and also where we should be in future. My other point is about the voices. I still feel national broadcasters are the only institution that actually can ensure the public is able to participate without fear. They're able to participate in development of their country. When you when you imagine that the private sector or maybe private media houses are the ones to enable a country to leap from one to the next, it's totally impossible. National broadcasters have a core function that often we forget. And I'll say this, I heard in the morning about a model of funding a public broadcaster through household, through taxes, through what, that's fine. But I think African governments must deliberately fund national broadcasters, whether they'll do it through levies or what, but let the exchequers fund the African broadcasting media houses.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my brother. Before I open up, just one more last question for my brother from Mali. Financement du Radio-Diffusion Nationale. Financing. One of the pillars that makes a public service broadcaster independent is the financing and the financing model. How is the public service broadcaster in Mali financed?
La question est intéressante, ça me fait sourire un peu parce que je connais les difficultés des services publics comme l'ORTM chez nous, la télévision nationale ou la radio nationale. En réalité, l'État n'investit pas beaucoup. Nous, par exemple, la société que je gère, qui est la SMTD, avec la séparation en deux, donc il y a eu la SMTD, il y a eu l'ORTM. Nous, on diffuse l'ORTM. mais l'ORTM n'arrive même pas à payer les frais de diffusion. C'est-à-dire, on diffuse, on a beaucoup de millions de francs CFA avec l'ORTM parce qu'ils n'arrivent pas du tout à faire des entrées d'argent. Donc, ils n'arrivent pas à commercialiser. Ils ne peuvent pas tout diffuser à la télé. Ils fonctionnent selon un mandat de l'État. C'est-à-dire que le gouvernement vote un budget par an. Et ce budget est mis à la disposition du service public en question, mais c'est très peu, ce n'est pas suffisant. Donc, ils ne font pas assez de publicité. Donc, comme ils ne font pas assez de publicité, ils ne font pas de rentrée d'argent. Contrairement au secteur privé, ils font des publicités, ils font des émissions, ils sont libres de tout diffuser et ils font énormément de rentrées d'argent, contrairement à la télévision nationale ou à la radio nationale. Donc, ils reçoivent peu de ressources de l'État, absolument rien. Ce qui fait qu'ils sont très, très endettés. Donc, le financement ne tient pas. Le financement mis à leur disposition par an est très peu. Donc, ils peinent souvent même à payer les fonctionnaires qui travaillent avec eux ou les contractuels. Donc, ils peinent à faire fonctionner même les services de la télé ou de la radio.
Merci, merci.
Ouais.
Thank you very much for the question. It's going to be hard for me to answer because there is a small budget. For example, it's separated. For example, me, I am also managing the broadcasting company, managing telecommunications infrastructure and data center and CCTV. It's the second part. So it's really hard because they are not, the national broadcaster is not allowed to do this advertisement. They don't have like the resource, and the government doesn't contribute a lot. They give like a small budget. That's why we are so like, we meet so many challenges because we don't have money. We don't generate money.
Okay, that's so I'll open up now. Yes, my brother from Tanzania, my brother from Ghana. We'll have 4 questions, yeah. Then this two colleagues.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, but allow me to begin with a little bit of naughtiness. I thought you were only using English here, only to find out even French is allowed. Yet, when I started to speak Swahili, you said this strange language cannot be used in this venue. Now that we have our good lady over there, and she happens to have talents of interpreting, I'm sure she will be doing the Kiswahili one, won't you?
Yes.
Kiswahili?
She can speak very good Swahili, by the way. You'll be shocked.
Okay.
I understand, but I cannot speak well Kiswahili.
Okay, and that's where our biggest problem is as Africans. We can speak very good French, very good English, yet we can't speak Kiswahili. And yet, we as public service media, we are supposed to actually promote culture, Kiswahili being part of that culture. Let me leave that for another forum. I first of all, thank you, Mr. Moderator, for moderating very nicely, and also the contributors for some thoughtful discussions. I just wanted to add a few things. Number one, first of all, let me just distill some misconceptions. The first of which is that once you are a public service media, your content, and because it is actually loaded with cultural, values and stuff, it will be boring. That's a misconception. And then the second misconception, I kind of tend to hear people refer to these neoliberal concepts like independence of the media. Sometimes I laugh. What do we mean by independence? I mean, how can a media house be independent? A media house owned by somebody or an institution, run by individuals with interests. How can such institutions be independent? And some people tend to think, or they tend to equate private media to independence. And sometimes they use the two concepts interchangeably. Private media or independent media, are they? Go read Noam Chomsky and Herman, professor, from the US, a liberal country. But they will tell you something about how the media cannot be independent. Be they government or be they private, they cannot be independent. Because first of all, private media rely on advertisement to run. And they're controlled by those who advertise. So those are issues that we need to discuss further. And going back to my last point, one of the challenges we see there is even a thin line between government media, public media. Some of them are called public, but they are not public. They are government. I will share with you, very briefly, my own experience. The question is, how do you resist pressure from this government which is dictatorial, which wants to dictate what you should broadcast? And in most cases, these dictatorial governments would actually be dictating the public service media to broadcast things which are not interesting to the public. Isn't this interesting? I mean, how can the same governments that would like people to watch and listen to a public service media because that's where they are covered positively, how can they do something which is likely to hurt this very objective which they want to promote? So what happened to me when I was appointed, I realized, okay, this normally happens because somebody calls you, he's a minister. Yesterday, I was at an event, a very important event. I spoke for 2 hours, and you only covered 4 minutes, 4 seconds. Now I instruct you, tell your people, I'll be watching tonight. And I'll tell him, Mr. Minister, do you think I'm that stupid? Seriously, I'm not stupid, and I cannot do that. Forget about that. This is an organization supposed to be run professionally. We have professionals, so you leave us to work professionally. I did that. And I have my colleagues there who can attest to what I'm saying. So sometimes, how do we resist pressure from those in the government who think they can just dictate? Maybe they have been doing that for so long, and they think it's the way to go. But secondly, sometimes people tend to think that governments are devils. And this, I think, this is also another conception from the neoliberal, thinking. We in Africa are told that our governments are bad. So therefore, the media, you have to be against the governments because they are bad. Now, where does democracy come from if you don't have a government? So the other thing that happens, which I know happens, is that sometimes we don't engage with people in the government. Governments also have very intelligent people. If we confidently can engage them and let them know that, no, we shouldn't do that. Please give us the space so that we do A, B, C, D, because when we do, we will help you. Now, my last point from my brother in Kenya, a very important point you said, when people, the pollsters try to compare a public service media with the private media. I would think, controversially though, that they complement each other and they cannot be evaluated using the same criteria. But is it possible for public service media to also get numbers in the market? I say it is possible. Creativity. We have tried that at TBC. In the same numbers, which I don't agree with, we were placed about 4th or something. And then until recently, we were around number 1 there. The same polls. Why? We did certain things. You see, one thing where we don't do well is when we cover opposition versus government. That's where we probably don't do well. But is that the only area where public service media should cover? We have sports, we have entertainment, we have other areas, we have economy, we have so many other things that we could do creatively and take a lead in terms of people who are following us.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
I don't want to cut you short.
No, you did not. I have finished.
But thank you so much for your excellent Pan-African views. Thank you very much. I'll give a chance to my brother from Ghana, then I'll come to you, gentlemen. Yes. Here at the front.
Yeah, thank you very much. Starting from where Dr. Ayub ended, I think that the thing that we must emphasize, and the question about independence, is not about sitting somewhere and being a neutral player. It's about credibility and about professionalism. I mean, that is when people say that you must be independent, what they are saying is that you must be professional and you must be credible. Because these are the ingredients that listeners, viewers, are likely to follow. And so if you present a credible story, and if you are very, very professional, because at the point where he was closing about opposition and whatever, I mean, sometimes even the word itself has no place in our diction. Because we have presidential system of government in some of these countries. Where do you oppose in the presidential system? It is only in the parliamentary system that opposition is recognized and accepted as part of the system. So these are some of the things. Then the other thing, that from your perspective, see, the question about popularity. I mean, the fact that something is popular does not make it relevant. And so there might be salience about some of the things that we do. I mean, I was a student of theater studies. Now, we have a maxim there which says that if you give the people trash, they will grow to like the trash. However, if you change the trash and give them something else, they will begin to like the something else. And so it is not always that the thing that we consider to be popular are really popular. Some of it are misconceptions that we have developed. Then, even with the process, one of the things that is fundamental is the fact that you must subscribe before they will pull you. If you don't pay, you will not be pulled. And so the question of the pulling itself, the value that we must place on the pull itself, sometimes is problematic. And serious people, when I watch a TV program, when I listen to a radio program, I am not watching or listening because I'm going to contribute to a pool and say that I watched it. I watch it for myself, and I say to myself somewhere, there are many viewers who do not participate in some of those processes about that. It's something of a younger generation that sometimes they want to belong. And those of us who have studied media are clear that sometimes when you put questions to people in the middle of other groups, they are likely to answer in a positive way, even if they have not done it. And so because we should ask people in this room, how many of us have read the newspaper today? Or how many of us have read the newspaper for the past 1 month? I mean, we will look stupid to say that, oh, we haven't read the newspaper. So we are going to say that we have read the newspaper. Now, the data that you are gathering has no relevance and salience to the key things that have actually happened, except that I want to fit into the pattern so that nobody will think that I am outdated.
I think
so those are some of the issues. And so when we are looking at the value of the public service broadcaster as against the commercial one, we should not only be interested in the numbers. We should not only be interested in the polls. We must be also interested in the sense of professionalism and the salience in the things that
Thank you, my brother. So it's an issue of, it's not about popularity, but is the professional way of delivering things. I get you loud and clear. Let's be mindful of time. We have 2 sessions, and I don't want to keep people here seated for a long time. We have an evening program that we need to be mindful about, so let's keep it short.
My name is Adewale Akande from Radio Nigeria, Ibadan, Nigeria. I will be brief as much as possible. I want to believe the BBC brought broadcasting to Nigeria. And then we know of the school services. Rediffusion boxes are bought by each individual into their houses. People listen, students listen to study from the radio boxes then. Definitely, that is 100% public service. But when government turns around to do this, their diversification, whatever, the poor funding begins for the NTA and Radio Nigeria, to the extent that they expect us to plow back 25% of what we make through the commercial into the
Treasury.
consolidated revenue fund. If we want to progress, I want to suggest we should take a leave from BBC, being funded from public fund. What is the relevance of a local government in Nigeria collecting radio and television taxes? What is their contribution to the broadcast sector? So, my point.
Thank you so much. You know, at times I get worried that, I mean, we know we are talking to each other. I wish these politicians were in this room to get the message. But now we are conversing amongst ourselves. But it's important. Let's talk. The lady next to you. Let's keep it short and have more. You know, the good thing, there are no questions. There are comments. So let's hear from the room. Yes.
I don't know how brief I'm going to be because I'm the only woman who is probably contributing.
For you, we shall tolerate you, but
Thank
you know.
So, my name is Hawa Mundi. I'm a broadcast journalist with the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. But my union, I'm a unionist, I'm a comrade, so feel free to call me comrade. Yes, my union, the Radio, Television, Theatre and Arts Workers Union of Nigeria sponsored my coming here. So we're talking 60% of Africa's population. The African youth are the major stakeholders in this conversation we're having. So I would like to appeal to my bosses who are here that it is important for us to find a middle ground. Because we can't keep saying it's not about the polls, it's not about the numbers. We are losing the youth. We still struggle in Radio Nigeria to talk about how we're still having conversations of, oh, it's not proper, it's not BBC standard for you to say, oh, my name is so-so person, you say I am so-so person. These are the conversations we're having in the public service media, you know? So the most important, arguably, the most important thing in communication is feedback. And the internet gives you instant feedback, right? It enables you to evaluate the effectiveness of the message you have passed. And this is why, even in our traditional media organizations, we say, okay, follow us on Twitter, you know, do this, because that is where we can get feedback. So talking about bridging the gap, according to the United Nations, in 2015, the projections is that 90% of the world's population is going to have access to internet. So it means the people we are trying to run away from now are the ones who are going to be saddled with the responsibility of telling the African story. And these are people who do not even know anything about Africa. We are talking about young people who believe that you can get money from body parts. These are the majority of the people who are on the internet. And they are the ones who have the power to tell the story. They're not interested in what's going on the TV. Now, I am a 35-year-old, not so young woman with 6 strands of gray hair. But I remember growing up watching Tales by Moonlight on NTA. And that was how we got to know about some African values that we had. So now I'm struggling to strike a balance between people who taught me a little bit about what our values are in Africa and people who don't even know anything about Africa, and they are the ones who have the power. So we need to strike a balance. Have a conversation with these young people. 60% is a lot of, you can't say it's not about the number, it is about the number.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes, it is about the number because it's frustrating for me sometimes as a millennial who is working for the government. I have so much I want to talk about, but oh no, you can't say that.
That's fair enough.
But the moment I go on social media,
You say whatever you
They are
want.
listening to me. Yes, they are listening to me. They are listening to me. So we need to, the African, for a while now, the studies of traditional and contemporary African cultures have been said by total strangers, right? Portraying a collection of animist religions, practices, superstition, and the likes. So we need to start telling our own stories. We need to tell the world, because we have the power, we have the number already. We are talking about people who are making $105,000 per post on TikTok. That's what young people want to talk about. So tell them how they can tell the African story and still make their money, so that we take advantage of social media that we have today, our sense of hospitality, good relations, the sanctity of life, the respect for elders. We've lost all those values.
Thank you, Ma'am. I wish I had you on this panel here.
Thank you very much. So we need to allow these people, we need to talk to them, so we can strike a balance between the power they have, which is social media, and the values you people are taking away that we might never get to tell.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think, Ben, you take note of a very good panelist next time on such a panel. But you make very, very important points on how we need to engage the young audience. And the young audience is the future. We need to be very mindful about it. Let me take two. I am seeing Seychelles, Rwanda, Namibia, and then we close. We have, there's another panel coming in. Let's keep it short, please. I was so kind to the lady because, naturally you have to be kind. Eh?
Thank you. I will be brief. But I just wanted to make I felt compelled when my colleague from Tanzania spoke. And I would like to commend him for standing up. Sir, not many can stand up. And I wanted to just briefly link it to the relevance of the public broadcaster. And it is in the context of what we are discussing around vibrant and keeping relevant relative to other media around us. Yes, our mandate is to inform, educate, and entertain, but I do believe there are two more important mandates. The fourth one is to inspire. And in that is to inspire our youth, and the lady has just aptly spoken about it. The fifth one is about playing a leading role in the fourth pillar of the democracy, meaning a leading role in the media. And for you to play that role, you need to be independent. We can have a further discussion as to what is independence, and I agree. If we look at America as to how fragmented it is because the so-called commercial media are not independent. Now, so how do we make it happen as independent? I would like to briefly give the SBC's perspective. This year, the SBC is 30 years old. For more than 25 years, SBC was meant to be independent of the state. It was meant to be the public broadcaster. But because of it being co-tying to the state, it remained a state broadcaster. And it is because of the past 5 years that the SBC, through reform of the law, political changes, has been able to say no to ministers, no to presidents, and try to be as impartial and objective as it should be, because that is a journalism principle. That is why it has become more respected. And that is why the Seychelles has jumped from 65th, partly why, from 65th in freedom of expression worldwide to 13 freedom of expression worldwide. Wow. So commend those that are able to stand up and say no, to help further the relevance of the public broadcasters, amongst the others. Thank you.
That's very inspiring, DG. That's very inspiring. I think two important takeaways. Number one, inspire. Number two, serve as a role model for the commercial players. I think that's very important. Rwanda, quickly, please. 1 minute.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to thank everybody, especially SABA, Arthur, for inviting, because I'm learning a lot. I would like to come back to what the lady from Nigeria talked about. I think we really, really need to know how to take advantage of the new media. And I think it's possible. We need to have lots of Fodemayas. He's talking about Africa, he's selling Africa, he's using the new platform, and it is working. Why don't we learn and do the same? And then the last one is a clarification I would like to have from our brother from Mali. Vous avez parlé du problème que RTM a parce que vous avez peu de ressources du gouvernement et qu'il n'y a pas assez de publicité. Je n'ai pas compris. Est-ce qu'ils sont interdits de faire de la publicité ou c'est par manque de stratégie? Merci.
You take it, yeah. Quickly.
En fait, ils ne sont pas interdits de... Vous m'entendez? Ils ne sont pas interdits de publicité. Mais le problème, c'est qu'il manque de créativité, comme le disait notre collègue de la Tanzanie. Et ce problème aussi est lié au renforcement des capacités des ressources humaines. C'est-à-dire les gens qui travaillent généralement dans ces services publics ne sont pas bien formés. Donc, ils n'ont pas assez de créativité comme dans le secteur privé. Sinon, ils ne sont pas du tout interdits de publicité. Ils ont la possibilité de le faire, de créer même de nouvelles émissions. Mais c'est aussi le problème de créativité. Malheureusement, c'est ça le cas.
Here, it's not because it's not allowed to do publicity advertisements, but it's lack of creativity because people are not trained to do that. And on the other side, private broadcasters, that's how they come to be on the top all the time, and the public broadcaster is still behind.
Okay. My senior from Windhoek, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Berat, it's true. Seychelles is now #1 in Africa in terms of media freedom. They eclipsed us early this year. But we've been holding that spot for about a couple of years. And the reason why they overtook us is because our communication bill, as it relates to media and freedom, was a bit delayed. So Berat, we're taking it back very soon. So if you don't move, it's coming back. Now, the discussion, Chair, very, very, very important. The issue of research houses saying that public broadcasters are not great. A simple acid test that does not need research. Switch off your signal. Just switch off the signal and don't broadcast. 5-10 minutes. And tell me what happens. Everybody will call you. Even the ones that would claim that they never listen and they never watch. That's the acid test. That's one. Now, having realized that I'm running now into my second term as Director General, I think my ancestors got me appointed into the second one because it has never happened in the history of Namibia. When I came first time around, the first thing that I asked is that, where's research that tells us what we should do? And it was not there. Within 8 months, implemented. We got a feel for what people want us to do, want us to say. And then with that information, we could dispel a position that ordinarily would be detailed by those that are seated in the private and the commercial space. And what we actually discovered, very interestingly, we have 3 television channels and 11 radio stations, was that our popularity is very high. But the thing that came through as a problem was that we could not translate that into monetary value. And it's simply because we also started believing what people were saying, what are we? We've changed that narrative. We are talking to the public now. We are telling them that research independently done is saying NBC has so many viewers, listeners, and online people that are listening, watching, and using their smartphones. And guess what is happening? Everybody is now migrating to to be part of what we do. Had we been quiet, the narrative that public broadcasting is bad would most probably have continued, most probably forever. That's the one. The second one is that one of our biggest challenges that we are facing in Namibia, and I'm sure that it might be happening in your respective countries as well, the advent of online presence of streaming. We have seen now that government ministries, agencies, when they have events now, they are all streaming. I see that as direct competition for the public broadcaster, because they are busy cannibalizing your ability to sell from a sort of like, from an aspect of saying that your programs are popular. And I've started engaging to say, but are you now a public broadcaster? What is happening? Regulator, where are you? Do you want me to compete now with government on what they do? Because I can refuse to take their signal of streaming because I have the numbers. So these are the debates that we are busy.
But isn't that an opportunity for you to make money? Can't you be the one providing the streaming services?
It's a yes and no. It's a yes and no, but the understanding has to be in place to say that in the first place, why are you streaming when you are legally not allowed to do that? You're playing into a space which I believe gives me the power to be able to do the things that I want to do without being nasty or whatever. So that conversation is currently ongoing. And equally, when we look at the young people, we have deliberately created, one of our radio stations is for the youth. Now what happens is that almost every week I will get calls from people that are my age, and then they will tell me, I'm listening to that program, those kids are talking things that I don't agree with. And then I'll say, okay, which station is it? And then they will identify. And then I will ask, how old are you? And then the age comes, and then I say, you see, that's where the problem is. You are not the target audience of the program. What you can do is to listen, appreciate, and hear what young people are saying. We've recently started the same for television as well, a live discussion program where the topics are youth-driven. Now, there are also young people in government that are serving there. If we invite them, same like the senior people in government, they don't come. We do not stop programs. If an invite has been sent to someone who represents the view of government and they don't come, we will mention and say, we have invited Arthur and he didn't come, but we will continue with the discussion. So I think there are just a couple of things that we just need to do. So if we say Seychelles is number 1, Namibia is number 2, normally politicians will gloat when they read in their speeches. But then they will want to attack you when they believe you are doing things that are not right. And that for me normally is a sign that they appreciate what you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stanley. Thank you very much for that. Benjamin is looking at me very badly. So you guys, can we parting shots quickly? Let's wind up our panel because we're running into the next panel. I'll just give one round. Parting shots. Starting with you, my brother from Kenya.
Okay, mine.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I'll speak about the numbers, digital numbers. I had the lady from a comrade from Nigeria saying numbers. I think public broadcasters in Africa have been slow in picking up this. I myself actually had a digital department, and I just need to say something. This is the time for public broadcasters actually to outsmart the private sector. So for me, digital space is a new frontier. What the private sector did, they adapted the technology earlier than us. You know, we are slow adapters based on who is the DG and how they see things.
And procurement.
And procurement. But now, we are taking up the Kenyan space. And the benefit is KBC also itself now has a youth TV station called Y254. We also promote the youth by actually airing movies generated by Kenyan producers on our main channel, that is KBC Channel 1. I conclude by saying this. Digital statistics are the most reliable statistics that I believe in myself, not pollsters. And one thing also I would want to encourage the public broadcasters to do is to really have a balance between organic growth, organic impact, and balance it with the bot impact. I don't know if we understand each other on that. In other words, as much as people follow you organically, you need to buy some, because that's the way of doing things based on Twitter and Facebook. However, don't forget that content is king. I end.
Thank you very much. My brother from NTA.
Yeah, thank you very much. With the convergence of technology today, the telecoms guys too, they go into broadcasting. And that is a serious challenge.
Oh, yes.
What is the way forward? Majority of them are not professionals. We who are the professionals should design programs relevant to the needs and the wishes of our people. And it is important we implement all the new technologies. There is no crime in streaming your program. There is no crime in looking at Facebook, looking at Apple. They have their own TV too. Look at their own technology and look at what you can integrate into your own public service. And also, more importantly, there are rooms for partnership. For instance, in NTA, we have a lot of platforms that keep on coming to us. We want to put your network channel on our platform. We don't give objection, because we believe if our signals is in every of the platform, it means you will be able to have the reach. So it is important we go into partnership with the majority of these telecommunication operators and be able to distribute your signals technologically to the very important thing. But more, as I round up, there are 4 major key points. You talk about universal, diversity, independence, and then doing things outstandingly, doing things different, not business as usual. The commercial television operators, we want to do things everybody like. You can do something that will be unique, is different, and it will carry a message. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Mon frère.
Pour terminer, je pense qu'il y a des défis, il y a des enjeux. Donc, l'enjeu principal, c'est de maintenir l'attractivité des services audiovisuels auprès des populations, auprès du public, dans un contexte où le développement des nouvelles technologies est en prolifération. Donc, le défi serait donc pour les éditeurs, les services publics aussi, de diversifier et d'enrichir le contenu. Oui. C'est important, il faut diversifier et puis enrichir le contenu en élaborant mieux, en profondeur les diffuseurs aussi, et de prendre en charge un certain nombre de préoccupations du public. Donc, de faire aussi appel à ces nouvelles technologies, aux réseaux sociaux et autres. Mais également aussi de changer le marketing. Parce que le marketing aussi des services publics aussi pose de sérieux problèmes. Donc, ces services publics n'arrivent pas à attirer la population. Donc, il faut changer de méthode de le faire. Donc, avec ces anciennes méthodes classiques et autres, on ne pourra pas attirer le public. Donc, je ne vais pas répéter ce qui a déjà été mentionné par les autres, mais il faut le minimum de liberté aussi. Donc, il faut le minimum, le strict minimum de liberté pour que ces services publics aussi puissent diffuser certaines informations et ne pas être tout le temps sous contrainte gouvernementale. Mais malheureusement aussi dans nos pays, quand c'est public, c'est gouvernemental. Et quand c'est privé, c'est assez libre. Bon, je tiens aussi à vous remercier aussi pour l'invitation pour ce panel.
Merci.
On apprend beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you very much. He mentioned 3 points. The first one was how to maintain the audience they have by training people who can bring creativity. And the second point was about the marketing. They also need, like, there is a gap there. They need, like, the way they can do, like, marketing services on their own, and also a little bit more of freedom to, like, transmit the information they have. Thank you very much. Yes.
Doctor.
Yeah, thank you. I want to acknowledge our comrade sister from Nigeria for introducing this youth dimension to the discussion here. And I think that for a manager of a public service media that is 87 years old, one of the things that you come across is the legacy problems. You have an aged workforce. Now, the new startups in the private sector start with very young teams and who are digital natives. Then you have a workforce with the public services media who are, you know what I mean. It is not about ageism, but the truth is that that space doesn't encourage aged workforce. And so in this competition, yes, we tend to be lag behind. And I think our friend from Kenya has a very nice story in terms of how you are making progress. And basically, public service media organizations have to deal with this issue. How do we digitalize whilst we carry this baggage of legacy challenges? How do we respond to the youth market or the youth audience and ensure that we tap into the revenue base that the digital opportunities bring in the digital space? And I think this is something that I sit here and I tell you that daily I'm confronted with these challenges. Putting up a radio channel or a TV channel to get the youth is good, but really mainstreaming digital presence, social media presence is currently the biggest challenge, in my view, facing managers of public service media. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think for me, as the head of a public service broadcaster, I think the most important thing is trust. I think people can go watch everything anywhere, do whatever they want, go commercial, go social media, go everything. By the end of the day, where they verify the truth, can the public service broadcaster be a medium for verification of the truth? Can you be trusted by your audience? I think for me that's key. So before this guy chases me away, guys, please join me in giving a round of applause for these guys for the wonderful job they've done. I put you back in the hands of Benjamin.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my DG. Before you guys go, just take a group photograph if we still have the photographers in the house. No? Yeah, let's take a group panel photographs for the records, please, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Another round of applause for the panelists, please, guys. Thank you very much. We move on swiftly. Please, first, I need to do a time check. It's almost 4 o'clock. I want to propose something. And I want to see if we can end at 5 o'clock thereabout, not later than what we have already scheduled, which is 5:30. Now we have 3 sessions. We have a very important presentation from Centec on infrastructure delivery, and then we have 2 panels. Each panel is scheduled to be for 45 minutes to 1 hour. My proposition will be we take Centec, and if the other panelists allow me, we'll do a merge of this panel, because they by and large speaks to the same issue. One is on content, and the other is on delivering digital radio. And I think we can have a way of weaving what we need to discuss so that we are not here till 6 o'clock, essentially. If the House agrees with me, I think we can do that. Yes? No? Yes? Awesome. Thank you very much. Without further ado, can I invite to the podium the Chief Strategy Officer for Centec, my brother Itumeleng Segalo. He's going to be addressing the very important issue of digital infrastructure for content delivery and how to make sure that that is put across in the whole of the continent. Itum, are you ready, sir? The floor is yours, Itums. Can we give him a round of applause to welcome him, please?
There's a video that needs to be played.
Jambo. I'm trying my Swahili. Hakuna matata. Good afternoon. Dumelan Sanbonani. That's how we greet in South Africa. Thank you very much for the invite. It's really a privilege and an honor for us to be invited at Centec. And we also like to send our appreciation to our co-host, the host and the conveners of this conference, and we like to contribute. Before we start, I also have my colleague, Kopano Tache, who will be coming for the panel, but we already seen our colleagues from the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies who are here. They're actually our shareholder from the government point of view. But before we start, I would like to play a video about Centec. It will take about 2 minutes or so.
Rooted in Africa, connecting global communities and keeping you informed. Centec is a made-in-Africa digital infrastructure and content delivery company providing services on the African continent. Rooted in Africa. As a state interventionist tool, the company is equally committed to its developmental agenda made in to the provision of infrastructure that connects smart communities, providing services and devices to deliver content and innovative solutions. Centec has committed itself to being at the forefront of Africa's digital revolution. Through our world-class digital infrastructure, we are connecting rural, peri-urban, and urban communities. Centec has committed digital transformation to drive efficiency by concentrating on technological advancement, collaboration, and sustainable solutions. Peri-urban and urban communities. Interactive media services allow Centec to play in the digital media streaming domain by providing technological cloud services allow for low latency such as live classroom, including the provision of local data, digital books, processing that live events, and video on demand, and modernization of ICT. Our cloud services allow for low latency computing, including the enable us to facilitate easier cloud adoption and modernization of ICT resources. Value-added services. Our strategically positioned towers enable us to provide managed infrastructure of both passive and active infrastructure solutions, value-added services for customers, including facility leasing and co-location on our masts and connectivity.
For your audience, I would like to address the topic of digital infrastructure for content delivery and related services in Africa. I think at the beginning of the morning, there was a talk about infrastructure as key or as the backbone for any broadcasting services. And our SAPA president did say that broadband should be readily available and affordable. And we need to bring connectivity to the people so that it brings life. So this is what we're going to look at. I'm also cognizant of time, but the main thing is that we want to see how digital infrastructure support content delivery. Centec is also a product of the previous discussion about public service. We used to be part of the SABC, and we are now a millennium of 30 years now in the space of digital infrastructure. So we just want to start by saying, as an introduction, the basic thing is that digital economy requires inclusive and affordable infrastructure. At the end of the day, we need to say, why are we doing all this thing? Why are we producing content? Why are we gonna want to bring something for broadcasting? The outcome is to build the digital economy, is to improve the lives of people, to empower people. So that is where we are. We are talking about digital economy now, but we are also cognizant that the digital economy requires modern and robust digital infrastructure. And I think we know, and people have realized that there is a serious gap in our digital infrastructure. And as we read in our research, we see, which is a good news, that the entertainment and media industry is beginning to recover. And such growth will require digital technologies and infrastructure in delivering content anywhere from any device. Maybe just a brief to say exactly what are we talking about when we talk about digital infrastructure. I don't take it for granted, but just for common understanding, is that here we're talking in short that the services that make use of digital capabilities, that is the backbone, whatever you want to produce, whether it's your services, your digital services, your broadcasting, they will need something. They will need something to cover it, which is your digital infrastructure. Therefore, things like your internet backbones, your fixed broadband, mobile communications, communication satellite, I think it's Miriam from Liquidtel also talk about communication or satellites as the key and network infrastructure. So when we talk about digital infrastructure, we're talking about what is the backbone, what is the fundamental, what is the basis of where you can begin to play around in terms of your broadcasting services. And just to unpack, just quickly, this is acknowledgement from Digital Council, the research that they've done, in terms of just trying to explain the digital infrastructure framework. I'll just go briefly to say, when you look at is it on your left or on the other side? You've got the ecosystem where it talks about connectivity and transportation, storage, and processing. That is the hard components. And then the soft components is services and applications, terminals, and devices. So if you take this diagram from the basis, I don't know if you are able to see, but it just say the basis is your connectivity and transportation. And that is your shared, your physical infrastructure that carries the digital data between devices and infrastructure. And on the other side is your telecom and internet services. The next layer is storage, your data center, your processing center, and you've got those companies that are involved in that. Services and applications, we spoke about Netflix and all those guys are producing, that is you, some of you are there, and also the higher part is the terminals and devices. So this is just unpacking the digital infrastructure. I know that the slide is quite busy, but it just says there are layers in terms of our infrastructure. But just moving, we've spoken about it earlier in terms of where things are in terms of the sub-Saharan Africa and compared to the global world. I think the message here is that Africa remains behind by global standard in terms of fiber network, in terms of broadband connectivity, in terms of spectrum, and data center processing capabilities. The statistics are there. I won't go into deep into it, but you can see my lady at the beginning did speak about those statistics in terms of the mobile connectivity, in terms of the smartphone penetration. As you can see in sub-Saharan Africa, we've got 52% as compared to 72% globally. The fixed broadband household penetration by 2021 was only at 2.2%, but we see compared to the global is 58.6%. So that is just the message to say there's still a catch-up for sub-Saharan Africa to move. And maybe because I'm coming from South Africa, just a glimpse of where the South African outlook is briefly is that in terms of our household with access to internet, we're talking about 74%. Network coverage is close to 100%. So there is that coverage in terms of those 2G, there's 3G, LTE, but we're still coming, the 5G coverage is coming. So what it means is that in South Africa, there is coverage. Whether for content, there is about 90% coverage in terms of our satellite, and then we've got DTH. So we have that a gap filler of, say, in terms of content, there is coverage, but access is a different story, as you may understand, that coverage does not mean access. There's still a challenge of people being accessing the content that they need. Household with access to cell phones only, it stands at 89, almost 90%, means that people are accessing or they've got access to they use their cell phone mobile in terms of accessing or being connected. Now, what are the opportunities in terms of that? We're speaking about the issue of the challenges or the gap, but we see that there is an opportunity. The opportunity is really to invest in mobile networks, continue to invest in mobile networks, fiber, and data centers. So our approach, or our approach that we're pushing, is that we are not looking at only one form of digital infrastructure, which is satellite or fiber, but we are looking, I'll come to that when we talk about how Centec look like in terms of supporting that. So in terms of that, the message here is that for those who want to invest, please come and invest in sub-Saharan Africa. There is a need to really build, to cover. Imagine when one travels in European countries, there is no issue. Penetration, fiber coverage is even more than 100%. Shouldn't it be the same in sub-Saharan Africa, where people don't struggle? When you as broadcasters, you don't worry about the infrastructure. You don't worry about let me self-provision. You focus on your core to create content and say leave the infrastructure to infrastructure companies like Centec to do the work itself. Shouldn't it be the way? But also we want to emphasize, we spoke about the significant, or the growth of, the massive growth of youth population and rapid urbanization, which is an opportunity. I don't want to labor much on that one. We've spoken that the Africa is youthful. Africa is youthful, so we need to respond to the youth challenges, to the youth opportunities. And I was talking during lunchtime and say, guys, don't you think here the gathering is aging a lot? Because somebody asked, let me just ask, how many of you here subscribe or have subscribed to TikTok? Enough. Only 3. Oh, at least there are some youthful people here. But I think let us grab opportunities. Let's allow the young people, the millennium. I think I've just passed the millennium. I'm in the Generation X, my sister there. But I think let's bring the millennium into the fold and grab that opportunity to do that. So there are opportunities to invest in Africa. And just to say, continuing on the South African context, because it is important, I'll tell you why. On the key infrastructure that I'm going to look at, the 5 key digital infrastructure. The first one is fiber optic. And as you know, South Africa has advanced and robust submarine cable networks connecting both the east and the west coast of Africa and onwards. And the fiber reach is continuing to grow. There's a lot of investment in terms of fiber broadband, the 4G and the 5G, the fixed wireless technologies that are replacing the DSL. In terms of the fiber, we see the movement, not only in South Africa, but covering the whole west coast of Africa, which gives opportunity. As you know, people will always debate what is better, fiber or satellite. What are the advantages? Both of them have their advantages and so on. And the next one is satellite. It's where Centec has been playing for about 30 years in terms of satellite, but we see other competitors coming. The SpaceX launching their LEO satellites in our country and in Africa. But from the South African point of view, Centec is being mandated to drive the launch of our Pan-African satellite. I know there's satellite in Angola, there's in Nigeria and so on, so that we are able to bring that data sovereignty within the country. So that is one of the things that Centec is providing. We have that 30 years experience in managing satellite operation, the head end and so on, for broadcasting. And the third one is the towers, the tower business. South Africa is considered to be a mature market in terms of infrastructure sharing. We see a lot of players, the mobile operators in the country playing that role. And as Centec is a national footprint of strategic, about 340 towers and masts, who have become the backbone for broadcasting and telecommunications. So towers are a big thing, and there's a lot of innovation in terms of the tower space, and there's a lot of consolidation that is happening all over Africa. We see mobile network operators leasing back, selling their towers to other tower companies so that they can focus on building the core network. And the next one is the data center. This one is quite an interesting one because that's where most of the gap is. Look, ladies and gentlemen, when you send an email, when you send an SMS, when you send a WhatsApp, where does it go to? It goes somewhere. That traffic goes to some data center elsewhere. So the data center market has become very important as we reach how many gigabytes, zettabytes of data now. So there'll be an increasing need for data centers. Unfortunately, Africa accounts, we are told, for 1% of the global center capacity, of which 2/3 is located in South Africa. So what it means is that South Africa has the leading data center capacity in Africa. 2/3 of that is located here. But we see massive investment by MNOs in data center. And as Centec is also investing in data centers to service content creators and broadcasters. So that is another opportunity, that is another service that we are bringing to the market to say, as a broadcaster, as a small broadcaster, as a small business, can't we help you with your data center? Your big guys may be very expensive, but we are saying we want to come and help you and niche ourselves in terms of that. The OTT space, we are also investing in OTT infrastructure to support streaming services. People may say we may be late, but we are catching up in terms of investing in OTT. Just a quick one. I won't go even deep into this one in terms of the fiber outlook. The message here is that consolidation of tower asset has increased together with competition. So this is just outlining the players in the fiber in South Africa, where Telkom is the leading in terms of communication, in terms of kilometers. But we see consolidation where Vodacom is coming together with Direct Fiber and forming one fiber company. So these are some of the things that we are noting in terms of the fiber network. The only state-owned company there is Broadband Infraco, which is also part of the state organization. And then in terms of the towers, this is a busy slide, but what it says is that there are new modules for tower assets, consolidation and leaseback, site sharing to reduce costs and focus on core networks is happening. If you look at that, we see in terms of South Africa is also, and with Nigeria following the leading in terms of the number of towers, but it's not just the number of towers that matters. What matters is the population density per tower is a good indicator on the gaps in tower. So high amount of people per tower indicates more sites are needed. So as I said earlier, the tower terrestrial, it's a terrestrial infrastructure is also important as a mixture in all the digital infrastructure. And just to summarize where Centec now is adding value, we are known to be a signal distribution. However, Centec is moving to become a digital infrastructure company. Our Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies has also pronounced on this one that as a company, we need to begin to consolidate and move with the times to say, this is Centec. So what you see here is that as a digital infrastructure, we will have a mixture of those digital infrastructure that I've explained: satellite, terrestrial, fiber, fixed wireless, data center, over the top, for IR technologies, and the solutions for broadcast media, connectivity solutions, your smart communities, data and cloud services. And then the market is a broader market, public sector, broadcasters, telcos, enterprises, the African market, and the global market. So that is the center of can I say, of the future of today, of now and forever. So that is how we are moving, and we just want to let the industry to say Centec is not just a broadcasting signal distributor, but we are more of a digital infrastructure company, and would like to really work together with our colleagues here. We did visit Kenya at one time some years ago before COVID, and there was some discussion that we need to begin to revive in terms of that, and other countries that we want to talk to. But this just explain in detail some of the services that we're investing in digital infrastructure to support the industry. If you see that there's a video and audio content platform provider, so in terms of that, we're saying these are the platforms that we're providing. We are into DTH, we are into DTG, we are building OTT, e-learning platforms, 5G broadcasting, we're bringing that, and then other is the tower. We spoke about the tower, we spoke about broadband provider, we spoke about being a satellite operator, and we spoke about a data center. That is just the summary of the previous slide. Just as I conclude, we are observing what is happening in the market. I guess some of the presenters will be bringing that, but we just want to summarize and say, this is what we are seeing in terms of the broadcast, a brief overview of the broadcast media. That is, after a brief decline in 2020, the global entertainment and media industry is poised for strong growth. That is good news. We see, it's predicted by PwC that by 2026, we'll see if you see the graph there, we are talking about 2.9 trillion US dollar market. And also what we observe, we see that marketers will keep spending more to meet customers where they are in digital spaces. So the issue is about where are your customers? And this says the customers are now moving to digital spaces. So as a broadcasters, where are you in terms of that? Are you positioning yourself in that? And the other observation that we see is the advertising, the return of advertising. The advertising is poised to become the largest of the three main entertainment and media sectors, where we see consumer spending. The black dot there indicates the advertising increasing to 35.1%. So the message for broadcast is that advertising, invest in advertising so that you can begin to create more eyeballs, attract, but in the digital space. So the issue of subscription, yes, is there, but advertising is also coming back strongly in terms of what we see. So it becomes a mix. But what we see now is also the geographic disparities. As you can see that Middle East and Africa are the lowest in terms of the lion's share of spending. So it's something that we need to look at and say what we're going to do. So it shows that North America is up there, and then Middle East and Africa is not yet getting. So there's still an opportunity. We spoke about the growing youth population. How do we begin to grow the lion's share? Just the last one is just to say what are the trends? Here the message is that saying promote our values and enrich our lives. So with those words, I'd like to thank you and say, partner with us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Itums Sigalo. So we've had a lot. Creating and sustaining digital infrastructure from Itums brings out of, from my side anyway, a lot of thinking and a lot of
feelings about the future, especially that your second to the last slides on the trends of what we are seeing. Now, is there any question for this gentleman before I carry on? Do we have anyone that has questions on solutions, services, and the slides that Itums has spoken about just now? Role, or do you see a role for the current infrastructure provider and data transmitters vendors in this space? Given that we are now moving into a space where it's fully digitized with all these other services that are going to come on stream based on your projections, do you see a role with them, with broadcasters going forward, and do you see them as competitors or someone that you can work together to serve the broadcasters?
Thank you very much. As I said, I've got my colleagues who might want to add on the questions. But look, the issue of the role of the current infrastructure providers, like let's take, for example, Centec. We've been providing DTT as an infrastructure, or maybe let me say satellite. We also providing DTT, terrestrial and towers and so on. And we realize that it is important for us, though there's still a need in others for DTT and so on, but there's still a need for us to begin to move. As I said earlier, that it's important to catch up also, to lead the OTT platform, OTT infrastructure. Yes, I think it's important for collaboration and partnership with providers, but for infrastructure providers, there should be a realization that there is a move to the digital, and if your infrastructure is not supporting the digital world, you might have to rethink your business model, okay, like we are doing. But the basic telecommunication infrastructure, like your satellite, I think there's still a business case for that. For those who do fiber, there's still a business case for that. Data center, I've said it. I mean, okay. There should be, I think, the change still remains in terms of supporting that.
All right, just now finally, Centec is, well, a government-owned agency, right? Yes. But you are reaching out to Africa, is that correct? So does that mean that now you are looking to get broadcasters across the continent to be working with you, not just broadcasters in South Africa?
Even our vision is very clear to say it's not only Africa, but the global. We want to become a global leader.
A global player. Okay.
In digital infrastructure. So we do work customers in Africa, in parts of the world. So our positioning is that, yes, we are positioning ourselves as an African player. Hence, we are here, and we see our vision as partnering with other African countries. I've mentioned Kenya, I've mentioned other countries that we're talking about, Lesotho and Namibia, we've been there, Zambia, and so on. So,
so you're reaching out to the... Fantastic. So thank you very much, Itums. Can we just give him another round of applause? Now, we need to move quickly now and go on to the, like I said, we try and see how we merge the next two panels. So my target is to finish at 12:30 on the dot. Otherwise, I will get what we call in England my P45 from the boss is going to fire me, and I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to be put on the first plane out to wherever I come from. Isn't it, boss? No. So we move on to the next panel, or panels, but what we'll do is we bring up the panelists and we'll talk about the content issues and also the platform issues. Within the platform issues, we're going to integrate radio. And I promise you, I'm going to make sure that radio takes its pride of place in these conversations that we're going to be having next. So without much ado, the panel that we're going to be looking at will talk a lot about content. And this is the reason why we are here. Not because we have a big flashy building that we put profit or Nigerian and everybody sees it and say, wow. It's not because of that. And it's not because we have 55, 100, 200 transmissions. It's not transmitters, sorry. It's not because of that. It's not because we have 150 channels. It's not because of that. It's because we put out content. And if we can't get it around how to now start looking at content within the space of digital broadcasting space, in terms of the production content, distribution of the content, and most importantly in terms of monetization and making sure this is sustainable, maybe in the next few years we won't be having this gathering because maybe all of us work. But we don't want to have these conversations too about this in the new space. Help me do that today. I'll bring in some important people that we've spoken to and they've agreed to join this because it's an important topic. Can I bring on board Legend Makele? Legend is the CEO of the Bar Group. Is Legend in the house? The young man, a rousing round of applause. I call you a young man because you look young, but I know you're older than me. You're very young. Awesome. We'll give you a chance to introduce. I have a few other panelists, but they are virtual. So AV situation, I can introduce them. Are they ready? Do I have a yes from the AV? That's for this panel. I have Quentin Fredericks. I cannot get your sign language, my friend. I didn't go to a sign language school. No. Oh, that's a shame. What about Lawal Ahmed? Okay, so that. We move on. I will then need to also bring in on the other. Yose Bulasha, Radio Mozambique. Yose joined us on the panel desk. And also, last but not least, I want to bring in Kopano Tage. Kopano officer for Kopano. All right? So, can we move these guys on for the panels by giving them a round of applause, please? All right. As always, this aims to be an interactive session where we ask the insightful questions and get the relevant, pertinent, and powerful comments on how things can be done. So what I'm asking you guys for, before I get the panel to introduce themselves, is when we are making contribution, we want to see if we can make contributions that are concrete and that speaks to the help us understand what the problem is and how, most importantly, how we get to resolve it. But before we open up the floor for the conversations, let me go through and get the panel to speak a little bit more about themselves and just give me a little bit of a teaser on the topic that we've raised with you, which is the question of local content and also the platform in which we are presenting this, be it TV or radio, as the case may be for the radio guys. do you want to start, Legend?
Yeah, I can start. Thank you very much to everyone here on the platform. My name is Legend Mangale, and I'm the founder of the Bar Group. I've been in the content making space for about 14 years, and the company is about 8 years. Yeah, so we are a TV production house that loves to play in the hybrid space. So we do normal TV production, we generate ideas, but we also like to think of ourselves as a hybrid TV production house where we work with brands from whether it's Unilever or whatever, and broadcasters to bring together a common goal. Because I think that for us has been the gap in South Africa and in the globe. Brands want to communicate, and we want to communicate for them, but equally broadcasters want content, and we want to provide that. We have within us multiple platforms, so the digital space we play in, we equally play in the publication space and the normal terrestrial TV broadcasting. We've done public and private, and yeah, we find them to be quite different, but also quite the same. Yeah, so that's who we are.
Okay, thank you very much, Legend. How do you say your last name again?
Mangale.
Okay. I won't even try, so I'll just stick to Legend. Thank you very much, my friend. Timothy.
Thank you very much. I'm Timothy Oase, CEO Kenya Film Commission, and Kenya Film Commission is a state corporation whose mandate is to facilitate promotion and marketing of Kenya as a filming destination. When we talk about content, our understanding of content is all about storytelling. Storytelling in Kenya, how do we ensure that there is proper infrastructure that will facilitate the production of content, and also an understanding that content is king because it has a value that government has to attach to it. And when I look at Africa, we need to ask ourselves, why is content important, and what is it that we need to do to change the paradigm in a way that we create an enabling environment that will facilitate content creation for job creation, wealth creation, for social cohesion, and also to support all other facets of the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. And let me run quickly to Kopano. Kopano?
Yeah. Thank you, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kopano Tachem, Chief Marketing and Sales of Centec. And I think Centec, I won't explain much because the video probably portrayed what we do. But I mean, in the simplest matter of 3 tiers, and mostly the public service, commercial, and what I've been had in this room is about community as well. We have quite a bit of community broadcasters that we are providing services to. So apart from just on the signal distribution, as we said, we are now into the digital infrastructure. We're providing connectivity as well as data center and satellite services that we provide to our other customers. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Monsieur, Mr. Bolash, I was speaking to you in French. You're Portuguese. I understand that you prefer to do it in Portuguese, but I also understand that the translation that we've provided or that I've worked with you is not in the house. So do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself in English, if it's okay?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll try it. But the organization promised me to do my speech in Portuguese to the benefit of this issue. But my name is José Bolacha. I'm representing the CEO of Radio Mozambique, Mr. Abdul Naguib, who is not here for another matter. I'm joined to the Radio Mozambique as engineer, broadcast engineer, almost 14 years ago. My duty is dealing with acquisition, distribution, and send the signal for broadcast site transmitters. That's why I'm dealing with audio signal, how to treat it and distribute it. Thank you so much.
Look, that's a fabulous one. I have to apologize because I think we need to sort it. So, Sir Cecil, if we can get wherever the lady is, if we can get them to come in, so it's easier for him to communicate with us. But we'll try our best to make sure that we get this sorted for you. Apologize for that, but I mean, you've done very well. If I could speak an ounce of Portuguese the way you've just spoken English, man, I'll be a billionaire. Elon Musk will be second to where I am in the world. No, I'm joking. That's a very bad joke. Sorry. Right, so let's move on. Content. Broadcasters, I want to ask a question before I allow the panelists to contribute. How many of us here have 100% content from 100%? I thought as much. 90% that you carry, you can guarantee is 90% local content. On Rwandan Broadcasting Agency, 80%. Now we have 3. So 80 to 100, we have 3. Let me go to 70 local content. When you look at the content schedule you have on your platform, as local content you create within your own locality, not the one that we buy, dab, the one that will our own locality, 70%. Now we have 4. Okay, right, 60%. And have by countries or by organizations in this room is about 18. I think now, on the call of this, we have about 10, I dare say, that have 60% local content. How many of us have below 50% local content? Okay, so I get the picture. Now, this is what I'm trying to do here. If we say the majority of us do not have a majority of our content as local content, what is the issue? Because local content is supposed to promote our culture. And address specific broadcasting organizations, yeah? I didn't see, I was expecting a few hands up that I didn't see. One of them is from my senior brother from my most elderly brother from Tanzania. Expected that we have, and I want to hear from you, sir. That is the start of the conversation. Your local content output. I was looking sideways to see maybe around 80, I will see your hand up, I didn't. So where are you at with this local content in there? Are there challenges? If there is, what are those challenges? And then we can start that, get people to talk about it and others to respond as well. I don't know if anybody can get for me, so he can, based on his point of view, Tanzanian space.
Thank you. It's like you have put me in there already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I not raise my hand because I'd been occupied by something else.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
It's fine.
It's obvious. You know, one different thing, when Professor was talking about Ghana, that they have about, I don't know, 40 different languages they have to broadcast every day. The situation in Tanzania is different because we have only Kiswahili. So we are currently planning to have a language for minority, English, which will be broadcast one of our channels. So that being the case, then we definitely rely on local production. The production we make as TBC, but also the production we buy or that we co-produce with other private practitioners.
So you are 100% local content, or thereabout?
No, it's slightly over 80.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, because we don't want to I mean, I wouldn't want to say that it would be a good thing to have 90 or 100% local content. Always it's important to learn from other people, to get content from other places. Like right now, we will be broadcasting live World Cup. This is foreign content, but it is necessary. Thank you.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you. So that's what I thought. And forgive me that I jumped on you. I was just surprised I didn't see your hand up when I was doing that roll call. So, panel, when we are looking at the situation of content creation and content distribution, from where you guys sit, when content comes to you, as Africans, put your African hat on, when content comes to you, and you're looking at the content pool that are coming to you to either be commissioned for creation or to be distributed, do you see an influx of it becoming more local, or are there still content that are being imported from abroad that you are being asked to either commission, do a version of, or distribute? Bar, what do you say?
Sure, I'll take this one. I think what's quite interesting about where I come from, which is South Africa, is that there is a hunger for content. We have support, we have a lot of incentives, and we have a lot of creatives. But we tend to lose those creatives, and we tend to lose those content creators to new incoming platforms, because the current platforms, specifically local broadcasters or public broadcasters, they are a bit archaic. And so if I'm used to a certain format, I'm not as welcoming of new and interesting formats. Yes, we understand that there are mandates and there are certain bottom lines that a public broadcaster is supposed to fulfill, but I think that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about new ways of communicating, new formats that allow for, as Comrade was saying, the youth to be entertained equally as our fathers and our mothers and our grandparents as such. But I think we've never looked at ourselves as leading creatives when it comes to, you know, content as per se. When you look at, you know, The Crown on Netflix, that is one of the most watched shows across the world. You equally look at what Sky News and the BBC did with the Queen's funeral. We have those stories. It's just that we're not trusting and we're not believing in our own stories and our own identity. We look abroad first, we get comfortable with those formats, and then when I come in and say, oh, I would like to do a version of The Crown, we then agree, which is a problem, because it means that I could have never walked through the door in my own backyard to say, I want to do Ushaka Zulu, or I want to do a documentary or a docuseries about our current Zulu king. That wouldn't be so easy if The Crown didn't exist. And I find that a very big problem, you know? I find that we have, I think I was at lunch talking to, you know, some fellow peers in the industry, some from Nigeria and some from South Africa, is that, you know, when you say, oh, free education for all, but there are no schools or there are no teachers, you're kind of like doing things in a messy way. And I feel like that's the case in our country. You've got creatives, you've got incentives, but the people who are approving and receiving content aren't as adequate, aren't as malleable, and aren't as open to new ways of communicating and new formats when it comes to broadcasting.
Okay, thank you. Timothy, so within the space that you have in Kenya and the space of content, bringing content to the population, the focus of this panel is the issue of local content. What are you seeing? How is the concept of local content growing within your jurisdiction? And do you see that to grow further, or do you see more of content coming from abroad that is growing? Well, what is the play in Kenya right now?
Thank you very much. When we talk about local content in Kenya, first let us look at producers as content creators who are looking at what is it that my audiences are looking for. Anytime you have content out there, you are creating content based on who is your target audience. Channels like Maisha Magic East on the DSTV platform is currently broadcasting 100% local content because that is what the consumer is looking for. Netflix, among other giants, are coming into Africa and targeting localization because the reality is that they are looking for content that will resonate with the locals. In Kenya, we have content quotas, and we encourage all local broadcasters to air at least local content 40 to 60%, which is a requirement as put into the law. The reason for this is because today, majority of our locals actually want to watch stories that they can be able to resonate with. So today, the challenge I can pose to the broadcasters in the house is that before you can be able to tell any story, you need to get to know who is your target audience, what does that target audience require, then you tell your story based on those needs. And of course, it's also a challenge to governments to be able to put in place mechanisms that will be able to support investment into the area so that these local stories can be told in a manner that they can be sold globally or to a level where we can be able to have this content consumed by majority across the globe. Other than that, putting a premium to local content is critical because of the benefits that it comes with it. One, we are able to identify with our culture, our heritage. We are able to brand our country, market the country's benefits to the rest of the world so that we can be able to accrue more benefits in terms of tourism, talk about creating a screening culture that is endowed to what we have to offer as a country.
So I'll pick up from that, and I want you to respond to it again before I go to Kupano. So there's this scenario I want to draw out. You mentioned Netflix, and I've noticed as well that Netflix is spending heavily, not only Netflix, Amazon Prime, I dare say Showmax to some extent. These guys are spending heavily on local content, localization of content. And now, this is a forum for public broadcasters, right? Now, imagine this scenario, that we all have TVs at home or a way of accessing content. And then we have, say for example, SABC 1, SABC 2, NTA 1, NTA 2. I'm drawing up an imaginary bouquet here on this free-to-air platform. We have Mozambique TV and all this. And then on the same platform, you have Netflix. Because it can't happen. They become a channel on the platform. You have Netflix, you have Amazon Prime on the same platform. Now, considering what's happening, we all know that the quality that they put in to be able to generate their content draws the attention of the people to only want to watch that content that is on the free-to-air platform. You follow me up until now. The question is, how do broadcasters, public service broadcasters, or broadcasters in general that don't have the deep pocket of the likes of Netflix, Amazon, and Showmax compete on the same grounds, on the same space, on the digital free-to-air platform that are in everybody's house, when they can actually own a channel and put quality content there? How do they compete? That is the question I want to see if you can address it, or if Kopano or any other person can address it.
I think the local broadcaster, the public broadcaster, has an equal chance, just like Netflix, to compete on the same platform.
How?
As long as they have high-quality local content and stories that are targeted to their target audience.
Okay.
I believe that can be their competitive edge. In addition to that, the main aim of a public broadcaster, if that is being met, I think they can be able to compete based on that level. In Kenya, our public broadcaster has been put on a commercial level like any other private broadcaster, and they are still operating the market.
Okay. All right. Okay. Right. I will come to the audience just now. Kopano, do you want to address something on that, or should I come back to you later? Okay. Legend, you can go.
So there's a huge misconception that Netflix is doing well. It's not. It's just putting out good-looking content. But when you look at the numbers, it's genuinely not on their side. It's more the public broadcaster that is still leading, that still has the numbers, and that's where the opportunity is. That's where brands can play, that's where money can go. It's not about the budget that they have, because equally, some of their budgets don't even compete with public broadcasters in our country. So none of these OTT platforms have actually done really well to that point where you can outrule the public broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, this is the time for the public broadcaster because everything's a mess, everything's immoral, there are no lessons, there's just, irrelevant popular content that makes it hard to even watch. When you go on Netflix now, their biggest struggle is curating an experience, whereas in the public broadcaster has that opportunity. And I think when you talk about SABC, they've really done well. I think that we just have gone and we've thought, it's so shiny, it's great, it's something new, it's these new formats. But truly, hyper-local content still belongs to the public broadcaster. And we understand that as creatives, and broadcasters understand that. I just think that there's a need for a newness. There's a need to let go of this archaic way of doing things. We are not moving to digital, we're adding digital. A lot of people are saying, there's still 11 million people watching a certain program. Netflix doesn't get that.
Okay. Very, very delighted that you said that. Ken, okay. I will come back to the both of you just now because you are on the radio side and I just wanted to balance things. Can I have the mic to the head of TV for RBA, please?
Maybe I can add while we get the other question.
Good evening.
On your question.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think maybe...
Can I go 1 second?
Just to emphasize on what Legend said and to your question, what we've seen also is that the new technical advancements, especially from an encoding perspective, is making the parity a bit smaller, right? So I think maybe your comparison from a channel-less perspective, if in the olden days you're looking at SD content and then they coming with a much higher definition, yes, so that from a viewer experience perspective, that was quite evident, right? But now what we have is, especially on DTT now, with the digital networks, the HD visual quality that you get is quite comparable. So just based on the equipment that they have, if they have the right equipment to produce that rich, attractive content, and through a right distribution model, you're able to pick up the good content that we are still producing in our local environment.
Okay, awesome. Excellent. Yes.
Thank you. I would like to have clarification of which content are we talking about? Because it seems you're mixing VODs, we are talking about Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and we are mixing with public broadcasters. So most of us, we are linear broadcasters. And then talking about Netflix, talking about Amazon Prime videos, we are talking about VODs. So we need to tackle on platforms, content, and packaging also. So that was my concern on that.
So what we are saying here, Kenneth, is this. So I take the example from what I have in my house. So when you go on the TV, this is supposed to be a TV set that everybody has currently, and you are running through the channel list. And for me, you see, for example, you see BBC One, BBC Two, all those public service, and all those TV stations, and then you jump in and then you see Netflix there. So Netflix is habiting, is basically putting themselves in the TV space right now. So you can't watch any of their program. It might be delivered on a video on demand system, but they are on the TV stations and you can access them. The question is, but it's been answered by Legend, that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Broadcasters just need to make sure that the content that they are producing and the content that they are putting out there still stands the test of time in getting people to watch it. Otherwise, the flashiness, the facial quality that Netflix provides might draw the eyeballs away from them. But I just wanted to clarify that, but I'm glad to hear the confidence from the panel that the public service, the public broadcasters still have the bulk, the majority of the eyeballs. So far, so good. Now, moving forward, I want to, Mr. Bolacho, I want to come to you quickly, if you don't mind. I know you are in the radio space, okay? But the question I want to ask you is pertaining to content, albeit in the radio space, especially in Mozambique, okay? How are you handling the, I know radio gets more local content situation. Well, how are you handling your content space in Mozambique? Is it mostly local content as well?
Okay, thank you. So, we as radio makers, we do local content, and I think we do very well. So, as Radio Mozambique, we broadcast 19 languages, local languages, plus 2. I mean, English and Portuguese, 21 total. And we have to see two sides here: to produce the content, to deliver in platform, not traditional ways. The key is here, in platform is not, we can't reach to the listeners because of the coverage of internet, especially in Mozambique, I think in Africa too. For us, we are talking about 20% people located in urban cities where we have internet, even in mobile or in computer. So in that side, we don't have many people talking local languages. We're streaming the product, the content, but in my opinion, we don't reach for the real listeners. This is a challenge for us as a radio maker. We do the dramas, we bring the stories of people, but at this time we can't find them.
You can't reach them.
So we are glad that.
Why can you not reach them? What is the issue? Why are you not able to reach
because of data in this platform.
Okay. On the digital space, yeah?
Right, in digital space. We're talking in platform. On traditional, we are okay. So we are glad that our signal, audio streaming, can reach over other countries. We can receive feedback in real time from UK, from Portugal, Asia, the communities relating to hear our local contents. That is in radio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, it's very interesting to hear that, even whilst traditional is going well, reaching your potential audience on the digital space is still a challenge. Now, that is what brings me to the next module of this conversation, which is the distribution of that content that you have. So I'm minded to think that most broadcasters in this room have a space on YouTube. Is that correct? Who doesn't have a space on YouTube? Almost everyone is putting content up on YouTube. Now, Kopano, tell me this. From where you guys sit, in terms of distribution of content from broadcasters, putting content within linear on YouTube is not the best for them, right? In terms of how they're going to get value for the content they are putting. What would you advise a broadcaster that comes to you and said, look, listen, I've got all this content, local or not, but mostly local, and I need to reach XY audiences. I could do it on the traditional systems, but we are not talking traditional now, we are talking digital. And do we go satellite? Do we go fiber? Do we do a mixture of it? What would you advise based on your experience in the industry?
Yeah. So I think what we've seen is that the attraction to IP is because of the feedback, and it came as part of the discussions here that you can get real-time feedback, that how many people are watching, audience numbers and all of that. But I think if you look at from a distribution perspective, it's always important that, one, your terrestrial network reach, you're able to get a good reach. I mean, in South Africa, we have, our coverage is 100%, right, of the audience. So, and the way we've managed 100% is that we couldn't do the 100% all terrestrial. Based on the topology and the geography of South Africa, there's areas that you had to reach on terrestrial platforms. So we've built a terrestrial network that can cover 84%. The 16% from a DTT platform, we've covered it through satellite. And the way we've used satellite is a way that we've used a one-beam solution that can cover distribution to a DTH, direct to home, as well as feed our transmitter side. So that has leveraged us to be able to utilize the asset much better from a cost perspective, because cost to efficiency is important for our broadcasters. So what we're then trying to do is that once you have at least covered from a terrestrial and satellite perspective, you can then enhance as a complementary, then you get the IP part. Whether you want to do YouTube or streaming services or OTT, which is what we're doing now currently, we're trying to, as a value add to our broadcasters, enable them to also receive some content via IP and put them on streaming platforms. So we're developing a streaming platform based for our free-to-air customers so that they can be able to have that conversation, because what we believe in Centec is that you need to be engaged to your audience on any device anywhere. So we understand that when you're in the household, you're looking at the big screen, you're looking at your TV. When you're traveling in your car, you can switch on your radio, you can still be engaged with your station, favorite station. And when you're in the office, you have your laptop or your phone, you should still be able to say, let me stream my favorite radio station or content. And also the added advantage of getting what we call non-linear or non-live from a VOD perspective, because that's also the added advantage that you get from an IP base, that you can then record it and have it available as a podcast or as consumed non-linear.
Okay, all right. So Timothy, from your point of view, distributing content, yeah, from that has already been put in place. What are those challenges? What are you seeing in the market in Kenya?
I think from where I sit, think about broadband penetration as a critical factor on how far your content can be able to reach. For the digital broadcasters, of course, we can also not ignore the fact that mobile telephony companies are playing a critical role, and this calls for governments to put in place, address the issue of taxation dynamics, where gadgets that people use to access this content are readily available. And in addition to that, for the broadcasters to get specific taxation waivers that will enable them to access facilities that will help them transmit their content to their right audiences. And of course, this is driven by the demand by specific audiences. As I said earlier, content is king, and at any time a broadcaster put out his content, basically what you are looking for is that you would like your audiences to access this content and also to grow the number so that they can be able to make business sense.
Interesting. So how are they, when you talk about broadcasters getting some subvention from government, some tax incentive, how's that going to work to be able to?
What I'm referring to here is that we need to create an enabling environment to facilitate broadcasters to access facilities that they can be able to, if it is equipment, that is the infrastructure for broadcasting, for content creation, among others. Because without good equipment or production facilities, then you cannot be able to bring out high quality content that is being sought for by your audiences.
Okay. Okay, Legend.
Yeah, I think we also need to, encourage or enable creators to essentially, source content. Yes, you can shoot local, but what are you inspired by? Are you inspired by Americans? Are you inspired by Europeans? Are we creating content that is truly us? That allows us to then distribute and sell and be a part of that global market. I don't think that we are doing a lot of that. As content creators, we normally go with the trend. So if it's telenovelas, and that's not what Africans should be doing, I think. We have a different way of telling stories.
You know what, I agree with you. I don't know if the audience agree, but I agree with you to this point, this very point. And maybe you'll accuse me of coming and bringing European-ish mentality into this conversation, because you mentioned The Crown, which is a quintessential Netflix program based on historical English content. I also know the BBC people are not here on this occasion. I know that BBC, France 24, and Deutsche Welle, now they are pushing a lot of content into our space. In inverted commas, because obviously the content they are producing are local content as well. So my question, or my point to what you've said there is, how are the creators that are local going to make a headway in that space when, for example, CNN, BBC, all these big names are here creating content in Africa and put that content out there? You see my point? So how do the guys that are creating content from the broadcaster space, how do they flourish?
Well, I mean, if you look at what Nigeria did about 5 years ago with their music, they said local is better. They put in policy to say, well, we're going to do 99%, 100% our music. Equally, with content, you kind of need to have that. That is what enables diversity in content. That's what enables us as creatives to go look for stories in our backyards. I actually even think we don't even consider content from Nigeria on SABC1, but we'd rather consider an American sitcom. And I think if we're not looking at home, we're not going to inspire each other, right? So we can have all this technology, we can have all that stuff, but I think we buy...
Well, Legend, sorry, I'm trying to energize this conversation, because by chipping in, it creates a level of thinking. I'm sorry to disrupt your flow. The question there is why? Why is it that the commissioner or the content acquirer in a TV station in Africa would rather pick a content from Turkey than the content from Nigeria, NTA? Why? Why do you think, I mean,
'cause
not
we don't-
definitively, but why?
I genuinely think every time I've been in a pitching session or in a deal where I'm selling content, it's always been a lack of confidence in us, the color of the skin, or they've never seen someone like myself executing at that level, at which I do. I'm one of the best producers in the country. But we genuinely don't get the confidence. So whoever's sitting across me in that pitching session doesn't look at me as a shiny object. They'd rather look at someone from Turkey or someone from France or whatever. Like, I just don't think that we're seen as technical beings. I don't think that people look at us and see great storytellers. I think it's that mindset that needs to shift, you know? People, I mean, if you look on TikTok, the type of creatives that are coming from Africa, the type of video that's coming from us young people, it competes with the rest of the world. That's why I said in the beginning, we lose our talent. We have talent in this continent, we just lose it to Europe. I've got friends who are producing in London, in LA. You know, we just don't treasure ourselves as much as we should.
Okay, all right. I'm going to prepare the audience for a few comments or questions, maybe comments, and then we can start wrapping up this conversation. But I want to go back to my gentleman from Kenya. What is it that you are a regulator, effectively? I'm a
developer.
Yeah. Well, Kenya Film Commission is what?
We are not a regulator, we are a developer.
You develop?
Yes.
Right. That's interesting because I've always thought that you are in there to regulate the content. Whenever I see a commission, I think they are regulators. So thanks for correcting me. So you are a developer of content?
We promote development of content in the country.
Okay.
Facilitation, and also advising government on what are the key measures that need to be put in place.
Okay.
To promote storytelling in the country.
Okay.
But also allow me to comment on...
yes, please. That's why I wanted to come to you in the first instance.
When we talk about Africans not being able to share their own content or to buy their own content within the continent, I look at this as an opportunity. It's not really a problem. I think it's an opportunity that is lying down there. All we need to do is to take it up, start co-production treaties, which should be facilitated by governments, so that we start working together as one. Because today, as things stand, I do not think we are applying the opportunity we have or the chances we have to actually have the component of local content to thrive to the benefit of our people. And of course, this can also be enhanced by sound laws and also focusing on what is important. As I said, local content is king. And you know, a story told in Kenya is a story that can resonate well with audiences in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Rwanda, and so on and so forth, which is providing us with an opportunity for a big market. Any producer is looking for a market. So if we can be able to utilize what we have, I believe we can be able to go further.
Yeah, 100% agreed with that. And I think that's one of the things we are also going to be focusing on, especially with Saba. I think Saba is taking huge strides to work on the co-production thing. And also I know that AUB also is also taking some strides to see if we can get some sort of platforms going. So definitely from BMA's point of view, we are also looking at what can be done so that there can be a Pan-African platform where you can actually go and sort of see what other contents exist in other countries, and you can pick it up as you go. You wanted to say something? Before you do, I just want to swing to the audience quickly because I've got 11 minutes, and I want to, when you wrap up, you can come into your case. I see my DG hands up. And I'm going to take a block of 4, so this is your chance. Once that block is, wow. So I've got these people standing behind me all this while. Nobody told me about it. The panel is online, is it? Oh, well. my DG, and I've got the lady there from Nigeria, 2 more, right? But before that, I have to say, I don't know if you guys can see me. I can see you here. I have to say that we got the panelists who are supposed to join us. I was genuinely told that you guys quick.
Public broadcaster that is, and that will always be the role of what terrestrial broadcasting is. So we play very well with digital. We always have. Radio's always been able to accommodate different kinds of mediums. But where we are currently, it's a blended model. There's never going to be a space where digital completely surpasses what it is that we do. What digital does is it gives us an opportunity to amplify some of our content, and to Nada's point, broadcasters often put additional content in digital places. But I've spent a lot of time in West Africa, and colleagues from the continent can attest, you can be standing underneath a mobile tower and you can't get a WhatsApp message out or a Telegram message out. So we still have a huge role to play in connecting the continent and providing entertainment and information as traditional broadcasters, understanding the value of additional content on additional platforms where and when appropriate.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much. And do I still have Samuel Atamensa? Samuel,
yes, you do.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do for me, Samuel, is because you said earlier on that you feel that it's been talking about the same issues and identifying those issues, and we need to find solutions. Do you have any solutions for me that you can point to quickly?
I think that's, for me, from where I sit, the solution is to hone our realities well as broadcasters. I hear the public broadcasters talking, pushing the traditional channels agenda as opposed to the digital or new media channels. I mean, new media is so real, but again, depending on the audiences you're looking at, well, there's so much happening in new media, which we term the digital space, that you just can't afford to. But I am with Tim when he says that, some people spelled out the death of traditional media some years ago. But traditional media is still very, very relevant, and it's going to be relevant for a long time. I think the integrated approach of mixing our traditional media with new media is where we are going. Because, look, I live with my daughter, who's in her late teens. There's no way I'll find her watching a traditional channel, not even my own channel. At all times, she's watching something on new media, and it reflects the space she belongs to. And it's a space that we are interested in. These are audiences that define the future. So it's important that we find ways of integrating our programming and targeting so we can deliver the needed value in this century. I think for me, this is how to integrate both and still create good value.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. Listen, again, I have to say it. I'm very chuffed that you guys are able to contribute. It's a shame that, from the beginning we didn't have you plugging in and getting the conversation.
Well, we're listening.
Awesome. I'm glad that you are able to contribute. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nada.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samuel, and also thanks, Tim, the speakers that are joining virtually. Yeah. And I hope to see you guys in person at some of our other events. Thanks, and have a good evening, guys. I turn back to our panel, and we are closing now. So you guys have already said to us what it is that you want us to take away. But just to refresh, one word or two, what should we take away from today, Legend?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's never been cooler to be black.
Awesome.
Just trust that.
Awesome. I think you are advertising for Guinness now, eh? Tim.
I encourage all broadcasters to collaborate. Let us work together because you can never go far if you walk alone.
That reminds me of that billboards at the OR Tambo. Is it still there? You travel far when you do what? When you go together, and travel fast when you go alone. So we want to travel far, right? Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Centec.
From our side, I think multi-channel, multi-platforms gives you the access to reach your audience.
Multi-channel, multi-platform give you the access. And Monsieur, not Monsieur,
Okay.
Mr. Bolacha.
Yeah, the last word is let's fight to maintain the radio alive.
Yeah, radio is key, radio is important. Awesome. That brings me to the end of this panel. Please, can you give this chap a round of applause for me, please? All right, my photographer, please, if you please take the group panel photography for me, guys, so that we can have that on record, sir. If you guys just step forward for the group photograph, please. Thank you. All right, thank you. So that brings us to the end of the day one of our proceedings today. I thank you guys for staying with me. I know I said I was going to end at 12:30, but you know I had to bring in a few other dynamics. The day is going to end officially with these our presentations and our sessions today, but we are still going to be gathering together because the host, Rwandan Broadcasting Agency, is asking everybody to join for a cocktail, drinks, and some entertainment. I understand, now I don't know if anyone can correct me here from RBA, I understand that you're asking everybody to be here by 18:30, 6:30 local, correct? That's what I have here. Cecil? 18:30, 6:30 local. So please, we'd like to have you all here for a spot of drinks and networking and a few things to it. Where is it? Oh, is it in the tent? Oh, okay. All right. That's why they put the stage in. I think there will be live music there as well. So 18:30, 6:30 in the tent area where we had our lunch, please. Okay. And just before I sign off, may I remind you that tomorrow will also be another impactful day. We will start tomorrow at 9:30 as we did today, and we will be listening to presentations as well as paneling. We will have a presentation on how to enable mobile-centric audiences to access broadcast content anytime and anywhere. What role does satellite play in that? And also we will be examining we're examining co-production initiatives that has been happening within the cyberspace. I think that's the one between Namibia and Zambia. They will be talking about their experiences in the co-production space. That will take place tomorrow. And tomorrow also we will have a presentation, albeit virtually, on that concept of FAST, F-A-S-T. That's a new, well, I use the word craze advisedly. That's a new thing that's going on, especially in the United States and Europe, and I think it's about time we start also focusing on it in Africa. Is called FAST. I think it stands for free advertising. I think he will be joining us, and also joining us virtually, and also we'll have a presentation on how you can boost revenue from your archives, from broadcasters' archives, how you can boost revenue. That will come as well tomorrow. And also tomorrow we'll be looking at how you can expand your revenue base as a panel. We'll have some panel discussions on that. That I'm looking forward to, interestingly, and it should be very good. And also we will then talk about the normal, usual thing that we do with the SABA meeting, which is the country reports. Now, the country report is where you get to listen to SABA members tell us what they are actually doing, what they have been doing since last year, up until this year in their respective countries. And I always find that very, very interesting. And because you see, one man's problem is already another man's solution, and then we can find a way to make sure that things happen positively. That is what we're going to do tomorrow. For the time being, I will see you definitely during the cocktail, and I'm sure we will enjoy the rest of our evening, whatever you do. Just don't do what I wouldn't do. Thank you very much. God bless you. See you later on in the evening.